Mic check, mic check, mic check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. What's good? Hope you guys are doing well. Today is February 21st, 2024. And the question of the day, are we in alt season yet? When is alt season going to come? Are we here now? What's going on? Let's talk about it. So Bitcoin is just about 51,000 bucks, and we've kind of retraced back a little bit. We get a little bit of a breather from the pumpage for a little bit. Now, Ethereum, on the other hand, Ethereum has been holding pretty well. It's sitting just right above 28 or 2,900 bucks now, and kind of flirting around with that 3K. And so one thing that as I kind of get to this standpoint in trying to, I guess you can say, in trying to basically understand the ecosystems that we are essentially investing in. One thing I think about is capital rotation. Now this is a concept of basically saying, hey, money's going to be moving. It's like water. Money's going to move from one place to another through time. And so when it comes to an alt season, it is basically the amplifier at the very, very end, or in some cases, even in the middle of the bull, where, we see these capital changes go from Bitcoin to Ethereum to these alts, not just in the small amounts of money. We're talking about, in some cases, billions of dollars at a time. And so these are the big pushes to the upside that we're wanting to see for our portfolios, especially. And these are what we're trying to position ourselves for. So alt season is something that a lot of people coined the term, but really, I think a true alt season, it needs to have a couple things. There needs to be I'm talking about major market caps outperforming Bitcoin, at least on a 30-day basis, And we don't want to just only see a certain sector like GameFi or DeFi just alone. Like, we want to see everything. I'm talking about from your meme coins to, your favorite gaming tokens. We're talking like NFTs, like everything is just popping off. To me, like, that is a true alt season. Now, we've had a little taste of that. Like, we got a little taste of that from October to, maybe, early January, where we've seen the alts kind of come alive. But when I show you guys the data, just the little bit of money that came in specifically to the alts, you'd be like, wow, like, we did all of that with all that price action, all of that euphoria. And that was like a small amount of money. And it gets better, you guys. There's a lot more money that's going to rotate from Bitcoin to Ethereum to alts the longer that we go in this bull market. So with that being said, I have a great presentation for y'all. I appreciate you guys for coming through, and it's going to be an incredible time. Alt seasons are like the most enjoyable part of any market, especially, when you're talking about crypto. And so this is what we're really here for, is understanding how to be ready for an alt season, but even be positioned. And how do you know when you're in an alt season? So these are questions that I ask continually, and I have the answer if you guys have those same questions. So let's see, what do we have in the chat, man? We got some folks here. Let's see who is here today. I'm looking forward to this one for real. Let's see. Let's actually jump into let's jump into this chart really quickly. We'll talk, and then we'll see who's in the chat. Well, we got somebody in the chat. We got Wade, as always. Trooper. What it do? What it do? All right. So really quick, before we talk about, are we in an alt season? Let's take a look and see how is the catalyst to all alt seasons. How is that doing? And the catalyst is going to be Ethereum. And let's talk about this, right? Now, the reason why Ethereum is very important to pay attention to. Some people are like, yeah, I don't need Ethereum. I don't want Ethereum. It's not going to give me the gains that I want. It's not going to give me that 30x, that 100x, right? But why should we pay attention to Ethereum? Now, the biggest thing that people need to understand is Ethereum is very important simply because this is the largest amounts of capital that sloshes around stablecoins. Okay. Now, stablecoins, essentially, they originally, most times do come from centralized exchanges. But once stablecoins make it to DeFi, they're going to generally try to search for yield, right? You have these different opportunities to get yield for your stablecoin. Now, with Ethereum being the largest ecosystem, just in TVL, total value locked, but then just in general, actual volume, we got to understand that a lot of things that are pairings, so different coins that are paired to stable coins in Ethereum, there's liquidity bonding. Now, when you have layer twos on top of Ethereum like Arbitrum or Optimism or Matic, okay, that liquidity bonded goes to the other chain. Now, when these other chains now communicate with each other and you can do cross-chain swaps, guess what? That liquidity bonding is just going all across, and they don't all have to be EVMs even. And so the key thing to understand is Ethereum is so important to pay attention to because when you have more inflows to Ethereum specifically, it's going to find its way into DeFi. When stablecoins find their way into DeFi, they're going to find their way into all the altcoins that we are currently holding, meme coins, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important to track and watch Ethereum. Now, when we look and see the chart, it begs to just like tell us that, look, we've already traveled a nice distance. We have had a big bear market. Everybody knows this, right? And let's get the full chart. We've had a big bear market, but from this point on, it's been like that steady grinder. Now, this this accumulation phase where we were a little bit more sideways, that was like that. Hey, y'all. If y'all haven't been thinking about Ethereum, let's do so and let's accumulate. Because like I was mentioning before, we had a reminiscence of an alt season from October. And for Ethereum, it's kind of still going specifically. Like we're in mid-February and Ethereum is kind of still popping off, which is a nice thing to see. Now, with that being said, you can kind of see how it's climbing up its Fibonacci levels. And so, typically it's going to find its way. It's going to find its bearing. If we have a little bit of a dip, sure, why not? But as it makes its way to its all-time high, y'all, it's going to travel to these Fibonacci levels, maybe some resistance, but nonetheless, it'll get through it. So if we're looking at like, say, hey, where is that next point of just natural price progression? We're probably looking at somewhere around like that $3,300 range for Ethereum, which that brings us to the golden ratio. Now, here's the thing. If an asset makes it to its golden ratio after a dip and it sustains it, there's like a higher probability that this will make new all-time high. So basically, you can look at that spread and say, hey, basically, if we get to this all-time high, I can pretty much lock in this spread from here to the all-time high, which in this case will be about 42%. So there's a lot of people that kind of know this and understand this, especially from TradFi, and they'll take that bet. So, but they need to see confirmation. So this is a major level, y'all. Like when we get to $3,300, it's literally going to be a lot easier for us to actually travel back up to about almost 5K. So that's a beautiful thing to see, and Ethereum is going to keep doing what it's going to do. Now, one thing that I think is very important as we're looking at Ethereum, we need to look at momentum. So let's pull up a couple things here. We have a couple things. So we're going to look at the MACD, and the MACD is probably one of the best indicators that you can look at for momentum specifically. So let me see. Now, when we're looking at the MACD, we need to understand here. Let me bring that back up. So, all right. So when we're looking at the MACD in particular, we need to understand a couple things. That we have two things telling us a story. So we have the actual candles and we have the moving averages. Okay. So the moving averages are simply going to standpoint and tell us that hey, over a 14-day basis, because this is what this MACD is based off of. The MACD is based off of the 14-day moving average. We're going to see the 14, and then there's going to be also the 30-day, the slower moving average in gold. Now, when we see that these intersect, so you're going to see it go past this midline several times. So if we kind of put like a basic midline here, you're going to see how it goes above the midline, comes underneath, goes above, comes underneath, goes above, comes underneath. Just a simple rule of thumb. If you guys are looking at DCA, and here's the thing, we don't get these opportunities where it goes below the midline on a weekly or a monthly basis. This stuff can be quarterly. Sometimes during a certain year, it may kind of come below the midline, like in 2023, it came below the midline 1, 2, 3, under 4 different occasions with different time variations in length. Like this time period from August to September was quite a while we only had a couple blips here. What you're looking for is a time period where 2 prerequisites are met, where both moving averages go below the midline, and you are currently seeing red candles going to the downside. Those are like, and this is like one of the easiest ways to say, how do I DCA into a market, or at least Ethereum, is follow this, right? And I don't know if people are actually really teaching this, but and this is not going to be like your typical, hey, your bi-weekly or your monthly DCA. This is like your, hey, I've been saving for a good month or 2, maybe 3. I've got like some dry powder. I want it to get like a really good chunk. I want to get a really good bite of the apple. And if we kind of line up these time periods, like this is like the most simple way to do it, right? Where, okay, cool, we have these time periods where we go negative on the moving averages, and we're also, showing these red candles. So boom, right about there. And I'm gonna just give you guys a couple of examples. Like these are gonna be the relative portions of time where you probably would say, hey, this would have been a good valuable DCA. And so something like that, for example, boom. Let's take one more data point. Let's get 4 data points. So, below the midline, and you see these red candles, and this is a daily chart. So if we squeeze that down, we are going to notice a couple things. We're going to notice that those were probably some of the better times to DCA. So for example, we're looking at these 4 points here, right? Where you have local lows by using one indicator. Now, obviously, you want to use maybe 3 or 4 indicators at once to be able to confirm what you're seeing. But like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't get any better or easier than that. So that right there, like I can stop the stream right there and say, hey, this is how you invest in the crypto. Really, it can really be that easy if you learn and you get the knowledge and say, hey, what am I looking at? So super easy concept. And as we can see, we're definitely pushing up, especially with the moving averages, and getting to a point where we haven't seen Ethereum get to, especially in bullishness, in a very long time. Like we haven't seen Ethereum get to this point with both moving averages. Let's kind of see if we can take a glimpse, like since August of 2022 and since before that, April of 2022. Now, here's the thing. Understand there's levels to this. Now, we haven't had anything close. Like this is like a pretty much like an average, right? But we haven't had anything close to what we experienced here at the all-time high, where we've seen a tremendous amount of capital. And this is, like I said, telling us momentum, a rapid pace of momentum on a shorter time scale, where we're seeing, these moving averages get to a level of greater than 400, right? So right now we're coming out about like 100, and typically we're turning back. So what does this say? We may be on the start of Ethereum really trying to make some new excitement within the market, especially with the ETF potentially coming out in May. But as of right now, we're nowhere near these periods of where we are in the full portion of the alt season. So this is one indicator to let me know, hey, we're not in alt season quite yet. Now, I have something that I have coded up and I made. So when I think about alt season, I'm like, okay, I want to see some layer ones. I want to see some large market cap coins really outperforming Bitcoin. So let me actually show you guys this script that I made here on TradingView, and I think you guys will get some decent value from it. So this right here is what I call the alt season indicator. Now, all it's going to do is show us a vertical bar. But one thing that you'll notice is this is going to really give us an expansion in price, but also a lot of other things, sentiment, a lot of rapid movement with a lot of these altcoins, including Ethereum. But let me kind of give you guys the method behind the madness and how this is coded up. So let me take you guys in the back room really quick and talk to y'all about this. So This is, this is some alpha for you guys. Let me see if I can get this script up and we can actually go through it. So this is part of the invite only scripts in the Vaults of Crypto. Definitely suggest you guys come take a look. You get a lot of tremendous value from it. So let's take a look. Cool. And it was made by yours truly. So basically, and I'll kind of read you guys what I basically made this script for. So in the script, it's designed to serve as a leading indicator. So here's the key: leading indicator, letting you know, hey, this is abreast. This is basically coming up very soon. And the indicator is for the so-called alt season in the crypto market. The term alt season refers to a period of time, where alternative cryptocurrencies, so altcoins specifically, these altcoins that I'm going to mention, they outpace Bitcoin. So that's a very important thing to kind of digest and understand. Okay. So now the thing is, it's going to calculate the rate of change over a certain period of time. And now this period of time, I'm setting it to 30 days. And then essentially, what we're looking at is the rate of change is going to be like a momentum oscillator and this is what we see, like these, these blue lines that are vertical. This is going to track basically when we have Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Avalanche, BNB, and Polkadot. When they're all outperforming Bitcoin by more than 20% all at the same time on a 30-day basis. Okay. So that's how I coded this thing up. And if you guys want to come and check the code, come check the code. It's really good and it works, right? And then so this same thing is going to fire off when this is the scenario here in the future. So let me kind of bring y'all back over to Ethereum and we can look at how this is going to help us this alt season coming up. So remember, and remember that, and why did I choose those coins in particular? Like, why am I choosing Cardano? Why am I choosing BNB, Solana, right? AVAX and DOT. Why? Because these are ecosystems that, one, are part of DeFi, two, are very large in market cap. So when like coin number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, essentially, when they're all outpacing BTC on a 30-day basis, and all of them are doing it at the same time, the key thing is, like, we don't want to miss just one of them. We want, like, because that's how you know the whole conglomerate of altcoins are doing good, right? And this is the beginning process of that, right? Over 30 days. You want to look at a 30-day period, a month's time, because altcoins typically last to 6 to 8 months. So we're going to know that first month when all of these coins are outperforming BTC on a 30-day basis. And like I said, and these are coins that have a large market cap. We're talking, hundreds of billions of dollars here, tens of billions of dollars here for Solana. Solana is going to make it to over $100 billion in market cap very soon. And so this is a great way to have a leading indicator and saying, okay, cool. And then so what do we know? This let us know that, hey, this period of time, this duration, like especially from February of 2021, right? And this gives us like that first like couple weeks is going off. Where basically like everything is outperforming BTC during this time. And then so it really helps us kind of understand, like, especially like this period in here was an incredible time to say, okay, alt season is really pumping. As you can see, it stretches from about February 2021 to just about, May of 2021. And go ahead and look at your favorite altcoin during this time. Like, we could, potentially bring up something else on the chart, and what you'll find, like, what else could we look at? Let's see. What was like Phantom doing during this time, for example? Let's see if we can pull up Phantom. So Phantom. And say, okay, well, hey, what was Phantom doing during this time? Like, it was making its major move during this time. So let's see if we can line this thing up to the best of our ability. All right. So for example, February, same thing. Phantom is making this move literally beginning of February, going from 2 cents to just about 66 cents in the midst of, where we're seeing this block here. So that's incredibly bullish, because you literally just say, okay, cool. During that block, yes, they're definitely letting us know. Like something like Phantom legitimately just pulled up on a 30x in a span of, and this is crazy, because this is like that exciting time. If you want to look at the chart for Phantom, like during this time, right? We line that up. Like during this time, that block, boom. That's when Phantom is doing this thing. And so this is what the true all season looks like, right? Going from the beginning of February to this period of time, and boom, you can lock in those gains, right? So that's pretty dang impressive. And then so same thing here. It's like, okay, cool. Well, it's also tracking a point in time where Phantom, like, if you want to take this block here from August 2021, and it's not going to get every single altcoin exactly perfect. We're talking about these major coins too, but generally you'll see the rest of altcoins doing something nice, right? So we look at Ethereum and we're talking about, okay, well, it's flashing off from August of 2021 to September, and same exact thing during that time. The beginning of August 2021 through September, right? We're seeing something like Phantom do, another like 9-10x, right? So these are the moves. And for example, and if you just hold through several points of that, we actually have a true alt season, like, this is when you lock in that whole move, right? So you could lock in that 84x or something like that, whatever the case may be. So having these leading indicators are incredible to use. Now, I want to go ahead and present to you guys a couple things that we can use on-chain data to solidify what we're seeing on the actual chart. And this stuff is some real good stuff. But what we got in the chat really quickly. Let's see who we got. Of course. I'm out here, and I want to say, I think you're saying coach, but yes, sir. I'm out here to coach a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. Who else we got? Large in charge. Let's get it. What's up? Crypto Boogie in the house. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's see. DCAing every dollar I can till everything blast off. Hey, that's the way to go about this, y'all. Like, you gotta say, I need money into the market. Like, I need it. Like, it's not like, oh, it'll be nice, it'll be cool to have, a little bit. No, you need to get money in here, because this is the stuff that's essentially going to carry real value, and you can extract excess value later on, right? So this is what it takes. So I'm glad that y'all are really out here trying to do what needs to be done. All right, so let me kind of hit y'all with this presentation, and same thing. It's going to be able to give us a little bit more context and actually look at the capital flows and the money flows and say, hey, are we in all season yet? And the answer is no, we're not quite there, but we're going to start to see when things bubble up. So let's jump on in. And, I think you guys will get some value from here. So let me throw this in presenter mode. Let me make sure that we're good. Let's see here. All right. I think we're golden. We should be golden. All right. So, and let me actually take myself out the way just to make sure that we can see everything. So I'll put myself over here in the corner. All right. So let's do it. All right. So what we're currently looking at now is we're looking at the digital asset space, right? And one thing that we can start to pay attention to is the market capitalization performance, especially from year to date. So from the beginning of the year. Now we're looking at Bitcoin, obviously, and we're talking about the market cap, not necessarily the percentage gain for the actual coin. So we're looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then all the other altcoins performance. So one thing that we can easily see is, the outperformance by Bitcoin and Ethereum actually catching up, especially now that we have gotten into February with all the potential ETF news for Ethereum. Now, with that being said, the altcoins are lagging behind by about half. So at only 8% compared to Ethereum's 18%, we're seeing that there's a little life, but kind of going at a slower clip. So this is something to kind of pay attention to. And now the interesting thing, that line there in black. So if y'all can kind of look at this line here in black, right? This is actually showing us, the situation of the total market cap minus the stable coins. And same thing, they're doing pretty good. Like overall, we're doing pretty good on a net basis. Okay. And then so let's actually look here at this here. Now, Glassnode has its way of kind of calculating or talking about, its idea of an alt season. Not like mine, I think is a little bit more thorough, simply because we have several of the major alts in market cap firing off at the same time. Now, what this is looking at, we're able to look at just a couple things here to make it simple. We're looking at the altcoin cap on a 7-day basis, and we're looking at the altcoin market cap on a 30-day basis. And so the 7-day basis is going to be that pink line, and then the 30-day basis is going to be the blue line here. So, for example, when we're looking at this, now we're seeing, okay, what are the times when we find that the 7-day basis is above the 30-day basis? So on the short-term time scales, it's moving more rapidly, going to the upside in market cap versus the 30-day. And we have those time periods. And so like we're saying, especially since October, we had that opportunity. Now, the thing is, we're starting to see this indicator specifically reactivate in the beginning of February. So we did kind of have that for a lot of coins. Like I'm seeing IMX kind of, really do its thing. What else did we see? We seen things like Say and Celestia, really do the thing. Sui, we've seen those altcoins really do their thing, especially over the last couple of weeks. Now they're kind of cooling off slightly. But there was like a little 22-day window in between that time where we did have an opportunity for a little dip action. I know us in the Boston Crypto, we did partake in that. And so now the biggest thing is looking at the time duration. And so one thing that you do notice is even last cycle, and like we're talking about, we're getting into like December of 2020, January 2021, February, all the way up through May, all that kind of stuff. We see that we do have these little gaps where we had these little breathers where Bitcoin may be doing this thing, but, the altcoins slow down. But the thing is, you want to see the market cap on a 7-day moving average be trending higher and stay above the 30-day moving average for the market cap for altcoins. And so this is kind of what it's talking about. Now, it's a very generic, very simple way to look at it, because as you can see in the bear markets, typically, what are you going to find? You're really going to find majority of the time, where we're not having that, where we have the longer term moving average on top of the shorter term moving average for a considerable amount of time. So that's something to kind of look at and pay attention to. All right. So let's talk about just in general, what does the pie look like? What is the market caps overall for Bitcoin, altcoins, Ethereum, and then also stablecoins, because we can't forget those. What do they look like in comparison to each other? So as of right now, the market cap of all the crypto is about 52% Bitcoin. And so you can kind of look at this as dominance. Now, we don't always pay attention to this, but we also want to look at, we kind of know what Ethereum is. So Ethereum is about like 17% of the market, but believe it or not, 23% or just about a quarter of the market is all the altcoins, and 7% is the stable. So we got to understand that when you have, let's say, because now we're going to start talking about capital flows. With 52% of the market being Bitcoin and all of these, we're talking about tens of billions of dollars currently going into Bitcoin right now. And it's half of the market cap, right? Now, with that being said, let's say the same amount goes into the altcoin. So let's say like 10 billion goes into Bitcoin, and then it finds its way 10 billion going into the altcoin. Since the altcoin market capitalization is about half, it's going to affect, right? It's going to affect the smaller market capitalization or the smaller thing way more than the bigger thing versus if that makes sense. Like if you're looking at something that's bigger, to be able to push it up, you need more money. But if you use that same amount of money to push up something smaller, you can go up a lot faster. And then that's the experience of what we all have during the bull run, especially that alt season. And so that's what we're looking for. So it's good to kind of know how that works, right? About a quarter of the market is all alts. Now, here's the chart that I've been waiting to show y'all. Like, we really, really got to dive in on this. And hold on, I really got to make sure we're getting this whole thing. Hold on. Like, I really got to make sure we're seeing this whole thing, everything, because this chart is super, super important. Like, I can't stress this enough of how important that this chart is. So, because I want everybody to see the percentages and all that jazz. Okay. So, now, this is essentially showing us the market realized value net capital change. So we have the midline here at 0. And we're looking at Ethereum, net capital change, stablecoins, altcoins, and Bitcoin. So Bitcoin obviously is going to be in orange, Ethereum in blue. in like this teal or this like baby blue is going to be the stable coins, and then we're looking at the altcoins in like that purple color. And what do we see? Bitcoin typically is going to lead the capital rotation. And so here's the stat. And this is taking us back to the last, like I said, we're talking about January, February 2021. We're looking at, okay, we have some uprising, but you see that capital rotation. We see that Bitcoin starts to surge first. So Bitcoin is surging first, right? And then what do you see? 20 days later, you then start to see Ethereum start to get that capital rotation. And then what do we find? We find 46 days later, then you see the altcoins get that rotation. So you have just about 3 weeks, and you have just about like 5 weeks after Bitcoin gets that large like impulse of liquidity. Because essentially, you've seen Bitcoin go from a net capital change of about $20 billion to $60 billion at that time period, right? And so the 40 billion, like here's the actual numbers. $40 billion went into Bitcoin during this time. And the cool thing about this, because altcoins didn't really have anything, like this is at the midline. You see altcoins go from zero to basically gain about $20 billion in a small time span. We're talking about from February to May. So February, March, April, May, 4 months, something that had zero gets $20 billion injected into it. And then we had that second surge for Bitcoin, that second top. And it was a little bit tighter window where we see things really pop off for Bitcoin and then Ethereum. And then you see the altcoins follow. So Ethereum follows 4 days later. The altcoins follow 14 days later. So when you see Ethereum pumping, understand, just wait. And this is the data. This is not my opinion. Obviously, I have my experience, and like this is typically how it goes, but this is the data. We're looking at the actual amount of money, the net capital change that's going into the altcoins. And then, so for example, same thing. Now you've seen a little bit higher rush, just about like $22 to $23 billion on the second high. And as you can see, Bitcoin is surging down, Ethereum follows, and then so do the alts. So now, with that being said, what do we have today? We have the alts ever really since, we're talking May of 2022. Look how tightly it's straddled along the midline. Like basically all of that flush is gone. Like all of that money, that 20 billion, gone. Dunzo, right? And then what do you see? It spends a whole lot of time just straddling by the midline. Not too much kind of coming out, not too much going into the alts. But there's a word, yet. Because now we see Bitcoin starting to lift off. So as of right now, where are we at? Bitcoin. Because we're tracking net, right? So, we're not tracking total or cumulative. We're just tracking as things are rotating in and out. So as of right now, net Bitcoin has, received a fresh capital about 20 billion. And then so, that's just a small fraction of where it will be. Because if last cycle it got just about 60 billion net capital change, like 100 is on the way, y'all. So we're just like in that first fifth, I would say, for Bitcoin going from 20 billion to just about 100 billion. Okay. And so now what do we have? We have Ethereum now starting to get some luster, right? Where we have the net capital change basically 10x. So about 964%. We already got the 1,000% for Bitcoin. But here's how we're not in the fullness of the altcoin season yet, because simply this net capital change is only 169%. So way lower than what Ethereum has done. So that means what? That means the spread is right here. Like the spread between the net capital change for Ethereum and the spread for the net capital change of altcoins is what you want to have. Why? Because there still presents a whole lot of opportunity for the altcoins to then start to catch up and start to have that same type of trajectory. So yes, we're rooting on for Bitcoin, but we're definitely rooting on for Ethereum and the stables, because guess what? The altcoins will benefit very soon after that. And we can, in some cases in the fullness of the bull market, it can be anywhere between, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to a month and a half, but we will see the capital rotation. Like there's no maybe there. We will see the capital rotation go to altcoins. So the question you must ask yourself, all those altcoins that you've been eyeing, you want to make your move before we see this gradient start to really catch up with Ethereum, y'all. And that's the alpha that, like, people are kind of maybe thinking and saying, hey, well, I don't know. We're kind of in all season. Some also, like, we're not quite there yet. And then so we're on the way. And that's a key thing. Now let's kind of segue to DeFi and GameFi. So these are all parts of the ecosystem within crypto. DeFi here in orange, GameFi also in blue. And then we have staking. So like I would say these would be like, when it comes to market capitalization, what takes up a lot of market capitalization within the altcoins? Yeah, it's going to be these three sectors. So one thing that we need to pay attention to is like, hey, when do we have a positive net capital change for all the sectors? And what does it look like if the capital outflows for DeFi sector and the capital inflows for the GameFi sector may be looking a little bit different? So what do we see here? We've seen a lot of just negative capital flows all of 2022, and at the beginning of 2023. Now we've seen staking come alive. So staking come past that midline briefly. And that's kind of when it's like, okay, in 2023, you got Lido kind of popping up and all these staking services. Okay, cool. Now you start to see those first instances of GameFi really start to pop off. And we're talking, June-ish, early June, a little bit of July of 2023. And that's kind of what you see here. So same thing. We didn't really have that time period where all three of them really start to pop off until, right? Key thing, until we got to October of 2023. And as of, January and February of 2024, we still see GameFi still popping off. DeFi is still, not doing so hot, right? We're still below the midline, but we're slowly starting to break above it. And so what we want to see all of these pressing up to saying, because here's the thing, it's just $1 billion, right? Like, look over here, $1 billion of net capital change going to DeFi. So imagine when that turns from just, because think about it, you add think about the actual things, like you add 10 billion to this sector. This is where you get the 50 and 100 X's. Why? Metcalfe's law. Square it. So this is very, very important to kind of visualize and see. And things are looking pretty dang good, y'all, with these capital rotations. And we want to see more of this stuff going to the upside with more money coming in. And it's on the way. So now let's kind of segue to NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, on the other hand, they are literally killing the stock market. Like, this is the only, one of the few stocks that are actually performing like a crypto, where it's just like, dang, like this thing literally 15x over a span of 4 years. That's pretty good for a stock. Now, one thing that's pretty bullish, and I'm going to kind of show you guys this, NVIDIA, their reports. So they basically had a $22 billion in revenue in Q4. And the key thing is it's 7% higher than expectations. So not 1%, 7% higher than expectations. So there was a little dip for NVIDIA earlier today because people weren't sure. But the thing is, they reported after hours. Let's see what happened after hours for NVIDIA. And so it's pretty dang nice to see. What we see is NVIDIA kind of stagnated, kind of hit this area of about 670, 675, dropped off. But guess what? After hours, it got bought back up. Some large player was like, no, we still want to rock with this thing. So on the open, when it comes out tomorrow, guess what? It's going to start off at $734, give or take. That's a big difference. Huge change in price. And then so for the hottest stock, one of the largest market cap stocks, having basically a good day starting off tomorrow, you got to ask yourself, well, which way will crypto lean? It may tend to kind of do a little bit more of what the stock market is doing when it's bullish. And so we'll find out. But we do have a little dip action. But nonetheless, it's not really that much of a dip, y'all. Like, we're literally sitting right here, about 51.5 for Bitcoin. So this is not a crazy dip. But if you're a new investor, you're like, I kind of want to get into this market. You still want to be buying at the local peak, right? And then so we had a local peak at about 53K. See, I'm still thinking of terms of I'm still thinking of numbers like back in the day. We're not at 33K anymore. I don't even know we're going to get that anymore. Like, my mind is still like, man, I enjoyed it when we had 33K Bitcoin, but that's not us no more. So, but, we got up to 53K. We're kind of coming back down. We'll see if that actually turns into a material downturn. But with that being said, we have, it's really not that far, y'all. We are literally 20-some%. Like, we are legitimately 33% from all-time highs. 33%. And we've already traveled for Bitcoin. Bitcoin has already traveled 229% from low. So, do y'all think we're going to make it to all-time highs at some point in the future? The answer is yes. When we get to all-time highs, guess what? People start to pay attention to Ethereum. When people start to pay attention to Ethereum, now we start to have some fun with the alts. So that's just the capital rotation. And Bitcoin is doing what it's been doing. It's in a bull run. Like, that's all I have to say about this chart. And the macro theme, if we want to put this, the key thing is let's put this on a yearly chart, 12-month chart. And what do we find out? Over the long term, Bitcoin is going up more than it's going down. And so that's the key, y'all. Going up way more than it's going down. And I'm here for it. And so should you. And so this looks nice. You know, economies of scale. A lot of people knowing about this as time goes on. And yeah, we're looking to break through because the thing is, right, we have a candle that is already pressing through this wick that we made in 2021. And then so this is very, very inspiring to see because we had this very nice full candle in 2023. And we typically have a continuation. So you have basically bull run, you have the down period, 3 years of up, right? Then you have your bear, 3 years of up. Then you have your bear, year number 1 of up, year number 2 of up. And guess what? Year number 3 of up is on the way. And it'll probably have a little wick at the top, just like this one did, just like how this one did. So let's go. It's time to go. If you're going to wait till 2025, you're making a mistake. And do what you got to do. That's all I'm going to say. And so let's jump back in because I do want to talk a little bit more about, okay, so where are we sitting? So let's look at this in particular. So we are currently, and this is by, interesting fella to watch, but he does come up with some really good information when it comes to looking at the derivative space and looking at, hey, where are people positions on the long side and the short side. So Bitcoin Munger. So greedy market makers looking to wipe out 50K longs. Either way, those 54K shorts are going to get wiped out pretty soon. TikTok. So what we're looking at here in yellow, we're looking at the amount of money that are positioned there to the short side and then also to the long side. And so the cool thing about it is, once we hit to like this 53K to 54K, there's a lot of shorts in there. If we bust through that, they become forced buyers. Now, on the flip side of this, if we get through 50K and we bust down to, 49K, this batch of, people that are playing that game, they'll be forced sellers. But one thing that you notice, there's a lot more shorts than there are longs, y'all, right? So this is an incredible thing to pay attention to because we want to get these shorts liquidated, but we got to break through 53K. And as you can kind of see, we've been struggling. We had a little wick, but we weren't able to really have that nice full body candle to break through that. So something to pay attention to. All right. Last but not least, this guy here. So we have, Mr. Michael Saylor kind of, putting a little bit more narrative out there. Also talking about this guy here, Tom Lee. And Tom Lee is basically saying, Bitcoin is sound money. And he offers his price prediction for Bitcoin at the end of this year. So let's go through and take a look and see exactly what is he talking about.
I have no idea. I don't know what it's trading on. Maybe, I don't know what you think it's trading on now. The ETF, obviously, that was something. Usually it likes the Fed to ease, so you just said some positive things about that maybe for more printing. But I said, and I was just throwing out a number. We're at 50. I said, what you said it might be strong for the remainder of the year.
Yes.
I said 75. What did you say to me?
I think it's, could be as high as 150,000 this year.
So double what I thought was.
Yeah.
150,000, so we're tripling at this point.
Yeah, because you've got demand improving with the ETF, and you have the supply shrinking with the halvening. And if monetary policy eases, which we expect, that's supportive of risk assets. And Bitcoin's holding up. That's another reason why I don't think a drawdown is going to start that soon. Bitcoin's been rallying the last couple weeks.
Wow. So take that to the bank.
Those are big numbers. I don't know anymore.
And are you in, let me just go back. Are you in the camp of this is like a $500,000 valued
Over the next
over 5 years? Are you?
Yeah, it is sound money, and I think it's proving to be useful. And
Proving to be useful how?
Well,
it's very useful if you're an investor right now.
Yes, it's been a great store of value. It's been a good risk asset. It's also incredibly secure. You know, there hasn't been a single fraudulent entry on the blockchain since inception. I don't think any bank can say that's true of their P&L and accounting. You know, 6% of banking transactions are suspicious, 0% on the Bitcoin.
What did
And you know, that was incredibly bullish what he said. He's basically saying, hey, like 150K at the end of this year. Huh, interesting. But the thing that he said at the very, very end, y'all, and I'll kind of wrap up with this. So what did he say? He did a comparison between Bitcoin, the blockchain, and the banking sector, where he's basically saying like, hey, there hasn't been any fraudulent entries on the P&L, on the ledger. Like everything is, we can see it. The banks, 6% of all the stuff that they're doing, they're flagging. There's like, hey, like there's a lot of fraud going on here. So with that being said, there is value in that type of system. And the more people that understand that, the more the price will go up. And so now why do we pay attention to him, right? Why is this guy in particular so important to pay attention to? Well, Tom Lee, he's a very interesting guy. Like Tom Lee, he has an incredible job being an analyst. And he's probably one of the better, well-known analysts that actually do a decent job. And so for him to come out and say, hey, you know what, with the firm that I'm with and the things that we're looking at, like 150K for this year, I think that's a little bullish for this year. But then again, once you get price discovery, when Bitcoin goes over 69K, Ethereum goes over 5K, you really just don't know, man. Anything can happen. And so I think the more that we start to look and say, hey, we see the interest coming to Bitcoin, especially with the ETF flows, I think that's why we're really pushing up a lot faster than maybe previous cycles, is because we actually do have real traditional finance, and they're really wanting to get to buy the apple within Bitcoin. Now, you already know, once you taste Bitcoin, because I remember myself as a young investor in Bitcoin when I first started, and I was like, hey, I take my Bitcoin, but then it's like, oh, snap, this other stuff. You kind of want to test it out, and then you test it out, and things are, especially in the bull market, things are doing pretty well. So I was like, oh, let me put a little bit more money. And the amplifier just keeps coming after that. So it's only a matter of time before we have an Ethereum ETF. It's only a matter of time before we have other altcoin ETFs. And so you got to really ask yourself, right? Do I want to wait? Like that's as simple as that. Like all the data is here, all the information is in front of you. If you got your eyes open, it's really out here to see. The question is, how much money can you get into this market? Because that is potentially going to be the difference between your life now and the future life that you want for yourself. So a couple of decisions, a couple of core foundations that you may have to have within yourself of saying, hey, I want to take this serious, not just because I want to make some money off of it. It's not all about just making money, but if you want to really just change the dynamics of how you live your life, money is a part of that, y'all. And I know a lot of people want more time. So I presented a case to y'all today. It's an all season. Not quite. We've got a little flavor, but the true all season ain't quite here yet. But when we get there, trust me, I'll be letting y'all know. And if you're in the Vaults of Crypto, you'll definitely know way ahead of time. And so, yeah, we got a lot of good stuff when it comes to that. Who else we got? Any other chats before we head out? Let's see. Okay. Fresh out of class, going to the real class. Okay. Anything else? Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's it. So a quick stream for tonight. I'm hoping you guys definitely take some time to, if you didn't catch the beginning of the stream or the middle of the stream, go rewind it back and check out those charts. But we see that, money is moving. And when money moves, right, it's going to try to find where it's treated best. Crypto land is a good place when people realize it. And then so that's kind of what we have to deal with. But yeah, I hope y'all are just working hard and getting money into this market. I know I am. And yeah, we're going to let it ride off into the sunset. And we're all going to be happy sitting in the back. And I'm going to start, really start to hone in on these timelines, right? Like we see the cyclical nature of this. And as Tom talked about, we have the aspect of easy monetary policy. Typically, that's good for risk assets. You may have a little down draw potentially, but you don't want to invest for a short-term potential, right? Why? Because we know over the long-term time scale that we see that the dollars continue to be printed in all the fiat currencies. So over the 5-year, 10-year, 20-year time period, which you should be like, think about it. You should be trying to make moves for the long time period because why? You plan to probably live for a long time, right? So I don't understand why people even have the base case of trying to look at short-term fluctuations of even over the next 6 months or a year, when we know the net things are still going to be going up. Look at any chart of anything that has any relevance over the last 10 years and you'll see what I'm talking about. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all for coming through. Definitely subscribe, jump to the Vulture Crypto. And yeah, I think that's all we got for this one. So y'all be easy. And I mean, to be honest, don't slack. Like, I'm gonna say it right now. Just don't slack. Somebody has to say to your face, like, if you're slacking, pick it up. Pick it up. Let's go. Let's get the ball rolling. All right. Y'all be easy. Peace.